guest on the program is Councillor Lambe, who many of you would know if you have watched a very good session that we had a few weeks ago, where he was talking about his journey, and we were talking about his political career, his community leadership work, and many more things. So if you haven't watched it, I would encourage you to go and just have a look and enjoy what he had to say. Today we're going to be talking about leadership, which is a very important topic, I feel, for many reasons. And I think as we go along with this discussion, I'm hoping that you'll be able to take away some tips on good leadership and how you then might apply that in your own life. Not necessarily work life, it could also be home life. It could be any kind of environment in which you find yourself and you have to act as a leader, or you are encouraged to step up as a leader. So I'm going to begin now by asking Councillor Lambe, so you're a leader in your community, in church, and as a councillor. What does leadership mean to you?
First of all, I want to say a big thank you for inviting me back again on your program. It's a great privilege. Now, what does leadership mean to me? You know, leadership means different things to different people. And let me just start with a quote from Publius Cyrus. The greater a man is in power above others, the more he ought to excel them in virtue. No one ought to govern who is not better than the governed. End of quote. So now, what do I see from that quote in relation to the question you asked me? I believe leadership places so much responsibility on us, on me, on you, and anyone who finds himself or herself in that position. You are expected to be faultless, in some cases, to be a saint. To me, leadership is about leading by example, but also remembering that you are only a human. Leadership is about integrity, honesty, putting other people and their interests, and most especially one's followers first. I can go on and on and on. So there are times when you have to play the follower leadership role, because it's not every time you find yourself in the front. So when you find yourself in leading others, be a good example. And sometimes the role could be reversed and a follower, because not every time you lead. For instance, you may find yourself in the midst of 100 leaders. So one of you have to lead. So with me, you have to wear different hats from the one I'm wearing now. I've been fortunate to play numerous leadership roles in my life, whether it's school class captain, games prefect, football captain, community leadership, and directorship, and numerous other leadership roles I've been privileged to play most of my life. So what I try to do is to make sure I deliver to the best of my abilities, because it's a space given to you, and you just ask yourself, how well do I want to use that space? Because it's given to you today, it may be gone tomorrow and belong to somebody else. That's the question I always ask myself. How do I want to use that space?
So so you talked about the things that you've led in the past. How were you chosen? I mean, you obviously weren't the only one in the class. You weren't the only one that, had the ability to lead. How were you chosen? Was it done by voting, or was it done by someone just selecting you because they see your attributes and they see your qualities, your leadership qualities, or how did it come about?
Thank you. I mean, if I just give you one example of when I was selected or elected as Union of Communication Workers union leader in the post office in 89, between 89 and 94. I was, it was during my student days, and I was working in the post office part-time, and part-time workers didn't have any right at all. Even when you work on weekends, on social hours, public holiday, you just get a single rate. And the treatment post office was not that, encouraging at all. So most of the part-time workers, they weren't happy because it was a working pattern that was introduced by the management because they have problem with the union. So we didn't have much, right? Because the union, weren't welcoming because it wasn't, what they really voted for. So they weren't happy. So therefore we were caught between the union and the management. So at the same time, we as the part-time staff, we weren't happy. So and we had an informal meeting. How do we go about this? And then I can't even remember what I said at that meeting. Because I can tell you I wasn't one of the oldest or the most knowledgeable or one of the longest serving, staff. I just said a few words and they said, "How about you leading us?" I said, "Me?" And everybody said, and I looked around and yeah, you. And I remember some of my colleagues saying, "Oh gosh, they're setting you up to fail." And I said to them, "Well, I have you guys. I'm sure you're going to watch my back." So sometimes you could be at the right place at the right time, because I wasn't looking for it. So I would say most of the leadership roles I've ever found myself, it just happened to be situational. I'm not begging for it, looking for it. But at the same time, when it falls on my lap or whichever way it comes to me, I never run away from it. I never shy away from it. I take it, but I always ask myself before I take it on, do I have what it takes to deliver? Even if I'm not, because you can never be 100% perfect. If I don't believe I have the time, I'm always honest enough to say, listen, this time around, I'm not going to take it because I haven't got the time. And if I believe it's something that is very important, even sometimes if I don't have the time, then if I believe I can create the time to deliver, and I look around, I then see some people around me, as people say, in your last show me, my people around me are my clothing, people around me are my clothing, and if I see around me and I believe that, yes, the support is around me, like when you and I work on the project we did for the Yoruba Nation Global Directorate, even though I was extremely busy, I believe I could lead on it, but at the same time, you can, no single tree can make a forest. So, a leader will need people, around him or her to lead successfully. And therefore, it was, fortunate for me to have somebody like yourself and others, and we were able to deliver. So, yes, it's not, being a leader is not something I take, lightly at all. And if I believe even though I may have the qualities, if I believe I don't have the time to deliver to the best of my abilities, sometimes I do turn it down.
So what
When
would
I
you
say
say?
yes,
Oh,
so go
sorry.
on.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would you say your style is as a leader? Are you one of those leaders that is very autocratic and say, is my way or the highway? Or are you one of those leaders who listens to people and then takes the decision, having listened to everybody's views? Or are you one of those leaders that really doesn't matter, it's just laissez-faire? What happens happens, what doesn't happen doesn't happen. I'm the leader anyway. What's your
Uh,
style of leadership?
you know, definitely it's not the latter. I can assure you. I'm not a laid-back leader. I'm a very active one. At the same time, I'm not authoritarian that we want to impose my will. So I'm very democratic. Very democratic, very consultative. At the same time, I know how long I want to consult for. I know how long I want to keep on talking for, because I don't like I don't like a talking environment. Talking has its place where you need to discuss a particular subject or an issue. You give people to everybody to have a say, to express their opinion on it. And then you try to make sure as a leader to understand where each person is coming from. And then from there, you can easily deduce which direction the conversation is going. And then you then present it to, maybe through a summary of some kind, you then present to people, I can see this direction. Do I get you right? So you try to, confirm, saying, am I sensing that we are going this direction? And then even if majority say yes, if you find some dissenting opinion, you're trying to find a way to bring them to the center. Of course, at the end of the day, if because sometimes you find some people, they already made up their mind, even before you started the conversation.
Yeah.
You can never convince them. Or you try as much as possible to bring everyone along. And then you got to a point whereby you have to say, okay, the majority, in a very democratic way, not a very imposing way, very democratic way. Okay, I think this is where the majority are going. Let's hope it worked. And of course, we're taking your, dissenting voices. Okay, what part of the ideas, why they have that reservation, we can bring on board to modify even our own original one, so that at least we can carry as many people as possible along with us. So that is how I try to discharge my duties as as a leader. Where I need to bring people along, I try as much as possible to bring people along. And also when I need to make a decision, I won't shy away from making a decision, because you cannot consult forever. Because you have the goal. You have the starting time and you have the finishing time. So therefore, you also have to have that in mind as well, that you cannot keep talking forever.
It's
I mean, if you have me.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, sorry,
interesting
go
that
on.
you mentioned you have a goal, and you focus on that goal and you consult, but you don't consult forever. So as a leader, how do you make people believe in your goal, in your vision?
I think what's important for a leader is to be clear. You need to have a clear vision, okay? It needs to be a shared vision. Because if it's not clear, it's not shared, then you can't bring people on board with you. So if it's clear and it's shared, then
How do you
people will
do
know.
that sharing?
Obviously, we talk about consultation, for instance. There are stakeholders who will be involved. There are stakeholders who will be affected by the outcome. So there are stakeholders who are also involved in the decision-making process, in the planning and everything. So therefore, if you bring everybody around the table, those who are key stakeholders who need to have a say on the issue. So that then, of course, as I said earlier in your previous question, you can never bring everybody along. There are some people, for whatever reason, they just don't want to play ball. You can't force them. But what's important is that you try as much as possible to make sure those who are committed, those who are ready, you bring them on board, you listen to them, you give them opportunity to shape the vision, and then you run with it together.
So,
of course, sorry, go on.
It's interesting that you say not everybody will be on board, which I hear you and I understand that. But as a leader, if they're not on board, they could actually scupper your plans. They could make things difficult for you. So how do you deal with it then? You know they're not on board. I would have thought maybe more time is needed to talk to them.
How much time do you need? I mean, take for instance, if you're a military officer, either you go to war, you don't go to war. And then you read out saying, okay, this is our objective. This is why we have to go. And even you probably have some authorities, higher than yourself, and so therefore you actually, decision probably already made somewhere else, so therefore you have limited scope to, even to shape many things. But where you have some degree of influence, so you have to, the people you have control over, bring her along and it's okay, this is our role. You sometimes don't even see the overall picture, but let's say this way also as a corporate is very important to make sure every department, whether it's a manager or whatever title they have understanding of what is the overall vision and mission of the organization, so that they know where they fit in, what their roles are. So coming back to your question, once everything is defined, clearly defined, and then you know what your roles are, and you know who you're going to work with at what time, and you know where you're going when you need to get there, not tomorrow, maybe this evening, evening or end of this week or end of this month. It's not next year or year after. So it is very clear. That's why I always believe in setting smart objectives, because, whether as individual or as a corporate body, if your objectives are very clear, it's very smart, it's very strategic, and everything you do is very measurable. And you don't just set objectives without making sure you can actually achieve it. Because you can say you want to build Buckingham Palace when you don't even have the resources to do it, or you don't even have the land, so you only fool yourself. So therefore, some degree of realism has to be about what the kind of objective you are setting yourself and the time frame by which it needs to be achieved. So putting all these elements together and making it clear to people around you. You take, for instance, when you and I work on that project together, we had our meeting, we brought people together, we discussed, we planned. We also let people know that actually we have about 6 weeks to deliver this, even though we knew it was going to be a tall order, but we delivered. And that some people didn't do jack all, isn't it? Coming back to the question, actually, that some people didn't do much. And there are some people who carry everything, who work, and I know how many times you and I had meetings, we discussed, because we showed everything, So, and the same principle applies. So, as you said, I always say that, even though I had the privilege of passing through Oxford as well, but I always say that to people that, a leader, a champion, he or she is not made in the best universities. They are not. They are just there. Those institutions are there to help you enrich what you already have because of the kind of expertise and experience people they have there. If you don't have it, you don't have it. You may go to, Harvard, Oxford, Cambridge, and all these fantastic institutions. If you don't have it, you don't have it. And we've come across some people like that, so because some people just have money, they are able to go there. But when you then listen to them, wow, it's empty. And then find some people, even remember those days, our parents, they've never been to four corners of any school, primary or secondary, or talk less of going to university. But when you listen to them, you say, wow, you like a professor is giving you a lecture. So you can see. So therefore, I think we put too much emphasis on formal education. I'm not saying it doesn't have its place, because I had it, you had it as well. But I think when our people are elders used to say you have that expression where even though I didn't go to university, but that doesn't mean I don't have my senses screwed on. If I could just so therefore, yes. So we just need to, being a leader, what I also try to do is to make sure I'm very strict. Anybody that knows me probably saw a bit of that when we worked together, when I spoke to some of our team members. If you don't have the time, I'll give you up to a week to make up your mind. Either you are there, you contribute, or you're outside. Because there's no point taking the glory without putting something in, But one thing most people who have ever worked with me with know that I'm very firm, but I'm very fair as well. No favoritism. The same rule applied to almost everyone. The same way I will deal with my enemy if I have one, the same way I will deal with my best friend. If you don't deliver, I don't deliver. I'm not going to give you any concession of that I won't give to anybody else. But that's just me. Maybe that's why I don't have many friends. No, because when it comes to delivering, I don't joke with it, because my reputation is on the line. My integrity is on the line, and all these are very important to me. So therefore, when I put myself forward for something, I want to deliver, and I only want people who share the same vision and aspiration, same values, with me, even though it's not possible all the time. Yeah.
Indeed. So how has it been as a Yoruba man, and all the things that come with being a Yoruba? Has that helped you in your leadership journey, do you think? How has it helped?
Yes. Let me start with Yoruba Go when
Do you just tell people, some of our viewers who do not know what Yoruba is, or where Yoruba is actually on the map of the world?
Yoruba is part of Nigeria, southwest of Nigeria. A great civilization. Even arguably even before the Europeans, according to some scholars. So can go and find out. So I'm Yoruba, and I know enough about Yoruba tradition, and that has always shaped my my life in every aspect. This is why I was using the Yoruba adage. Yoruba wani ile ni ati nko esho rode. It means charity begins from home. And some of the values I represent, are those values that I learned from home, that were instilled in me right from when I was a kid. That I was watching my grandfather, as a chief, dispensing justice, or settling, village quarrels or misunderstanding or whatever kind, watching and observing how he used to listen to both sides and then consult, the elders sitting around, um, having counsel with, even other people outside if necessary, or that the values that shape my leadership as and the way I relate to the environment I find myself. So yeah, so I learned about leadership very young in my life through the influence of my granddad, as I was saying. And those Yoruba values were ingrained in me, in us, most of us, when we were growing up. In fact, my dad used to say, rántí orúkọ rere ó sàn ju wúrà àti fàdákà lọ. You always said, yes, you always used to say to me that, please remember, respect our name, our father's name, because a good name is better than gold and silver, better than anything. You can't buy a good name, a good reputation, So you always say to me, please not your mighty worship. Please remember the son of whom you are. Just to keep on ringing into your ears so that when you're about to make any mistake, to listen. You are not just, this name is not just for you. Whatever you do is not just for your own selfish end. Anything, any repercussions from it will also affect the family as well, and the extended family, your children, your wife, and the extended family. Because when they see them, imagine you do fraud or you steal, and they say, oh, you look at that guy, that's the brother of the thief, or that's the father of the thief. So obviously those who are not, you didn't even partake in your crime, they are suffering as a result as well. So all these are the values that we grew up with. So those two maxims I've just I shared with you before, they keep on singing them to our ears, especially my dad when I was growing up, including when I came to the UK. So my dad will always repeat them in his letters, especially those days when letters used to take about about 3 months, about 3 months before you receive it.
Forever.
So so yes, so Yoruba Omoluabi values I've always shaped my leadership, followership styles as well, combined with modern academic leadership theories and principles learned from university as well. So yes, even when you're going on the bus or in the church from the pastor or reverends, preaching, or you see somebody on the street, you learn. You remember many years ago, even the former Prime Minister John Major said, yes, you learn maybe about 25% in the university, but you remain 75% from University of Life. When some people are trying to question his academic, qualification and so on. So you can see, knowledge is not just limited to the class, to the university or school environment. The University of Life is where knowledge is, and that's why we actually encourage, through our, CPD, continued professional development. That even the lecturer, the best one will tell you, listen, I'm only giving you this. However, there's still so much gap out there that you need to fill. And it's through the University of Life you can achieve that. So yes, and I continue to learn. I'm going to be a better person. Yes, every day. So even Yoruba, in our Yoruba section, you learn from everybody. Of Omode Agba, Omode Gbon Agba Gbon, Ashidale Ife, because of the the blessings God give a young person, the wisdom God give a young person, and the older people by marrying them together, you achieve greater things, and that's how Ife was was founded or built. So therefore, yes, by asking a man, a woman, a younger person, a disabled person, all of us have something to contribute. A leader must be able to nourish all that. Yes, a leader who doesn't see that, in fact, he or she is not worthy of being called a leader. Yes,
So,
only where a leader should be able to bring all of them together.
Everybody together.
Everybody
That's
together.
really helpful. So, how does one prepare for rejections as a leader or plan for rejections? Because no doubt there will be cases where one feels that one is really ready to lead something and others don't feel that one is ready. How does one deal with that? How does one deal with those rejections?
So yes, I always prepare mentally and emotionally for rejection. Even because you may not be the first choice. However, which means you have to work hard to ensure that my chances of success in my first attempt is very high indeed, so that the rejection rate will be lower than everybody else. And for instance, when I compete for chairmanship of Nigerians in the diaspora, UK and Europe many years ago, I was rejected a few occasions. That never stopped me from trying again. I try. So, and I wasn't so successful. But the best candidates won. But that doesn't mean, if I strongly believe in the mission of the organization, because of that, I should withdraw. This is where, coming back to the question about how do you deal with rejection, you may be rejected as a leader, but not necessarily rejected as a follower. To support a leader that's preferable, to make sure they achieve. Because as long as you have a shared vision, what does this organization stand for? Just like you are in Yoruba Nation, for instance, they have their own leadership. We are all followers. All of us, we are supporting them in whatever way we can. Sometimes you may make suggestions, you may believe that maybe it's not what they're looking for. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop, supporting. You just have to find different ways to support. Even sometimes maybe your ideas may be too early, maybe too early. So a leader may actually come too early. Even look at people like Papa Awolowo, for instance, Obafemi Awolowo. Look at all the achievement, the development, the western region of Nigeria. Just imagine we had somebody like Papa Awolowo, this time of our lives. Just think of how much, with the resources, even those days when he achieved, we didn't have petrol pumping money, black gold, he used cocoa and agricultural products. Imagine if we had all these mineral resources those days, more income coming. Look at what Nigeria how transformed Nigeria could have become. So sometimes the leader could become too early, and look how many times he was rejected, but still that didn't prevent him from actually using the opportunity he had to transform people's lives, and as many as he could. All the legacies are still there. So you may be rejected one way, which happened to me several times, but we're always okay. How else? What other options do I have to serve? Because I don't go to any organization or any environment because I want to lead them. As I gave you an example of when I was in the post office, for instance, because there are so many, even including my school days as well, other school captain, prefect, and so on. Of course, you also have to be at the right place at the right time. But we also have to have the back of a mind that there are other people, probably better than yourself, because sometimes it's not the best person that leads. We've seen that in the history of Nigeria.
Yeah.
The best people are not the ones that have led Nigeria. So therefore, I always ask myself, that winning the lottery, a lot of people winning a few years or a few weeks before they die. But I always ask myself, if I win the lottery tomorrow, no matter what do I want to do with it? How many people's life, young people, old people, do I want to transform? What do I want to do for myself? And what do I want to do for the community? So all these things, it's the same principle applies to being a leader. So you have to ask yourself, if you find yourself in a leadership position, how prepared are you? What kind of leader you want to be? And what kind of legacy you want to leave behind? So all these questions, some people are so lucky, it just falls on their lap. Whereas some people fight tooth and nail for it, they never get there. Especially those who have great ideas of how to transform society and the lives of so many people in that society. They never get there. But I always ask myself, have an opportunity, I'm ready. And I'll always be ready.
That's really great, because I was just going to ask, whether you have any advice or any tips for emerging leaders. And you've talked about being ready. You've talked about, okay, you might have to deal with rejection, but you have to sharpen your tool. Basically, you have to get better at it. And because you're not the leader does not necessarily mean you don't follow, or you try and compromise a leader's role by being difficult. You just roll up your sleeve and just take part and be a follower and be a good one at it. So do you have any other tips that you could give anyone that's thinking of going into leadership or emerging as a leader?
A South Korean friend of mine, said to me some years ago, he said, we were exchanging views about leadership and so many. He said to me, when other nationalities, ethnic community, when they were fighting each other about who is going to lead, and he said, if somebody among them say, I want to lead, he said they don't fire them. It's okay, you want to lead, go on. And that's why you see when they fail, nobody even tell them. Some of them commit suicide. Well, we don't pray for that. We don't pray for it, but what he was trying to say to me is that it means something to them that they fail. That they fail, because they are the one who push themselves forward. They push themselves forward, that they want to lead. And that's why they don't fire them, because it's a commitment. It's a serious commitment as a leader. So for people to follow you and help to realize your vision, because you have to have a vision as a leader. And that vision must have some smart objectives, as I said earlier. And the approach and how you want other people to follow you must be shared, because it's not a shared vision where other people may not know where they belong and how they can help you to realize your vision. So that's why some people sometimes, I want to be a leader, and they fight tooth and nail and they fail at the end. That's the example what that friend of mine was trying to share with me. They have to have a clear vision. And some people, they just say they want to be a leader. And okay, in their own culture, they say, okay, you go on. Are you sure you want to be a leader? If you don't consider all these different elements, then you are likely to fail. So because people are coming, those genuinely want to support you to succeed, they are coming with their own social capital. Take for instance, like yourself, you're a successful woman with intellect, experience, civil service and so many other areas, when you want to volunteer on anything, you're putting your reputation on the line, isn't it? Yes, paid or unpaid. And therefore, it's even worse when you are putting it online for unpaid something. But the only reward you're expecting at the end of it is the success of it, which is not monetary. At least if it's job we do 24/7, well, at least I get paid for it. If they don't want my idea, fine. But when you then go and volunteer on something, giving everything, even more than the one you are paid for, and then you see the way you are treated, disrespected, abused, then some people, so we, of course, so we have to prepare for that as well as leaders. We have to prepare for that. And mentally, physically, emotionally prepare for that as leaders. But the bottom line is, you have to ask yourself, why am I in it? What do I have to contribute to the overall outcome? And that's why when I'm invited to be a member of any group, as a non-executive director or whatever, I ask myself, do I have the time? If I don't have the time, I say, you know what? I love this organization. However, I don't have the time to be part of you. And I won't just put my name there without putting in the hours. If you fail, I fail too. And I don't want part of that. So yes, it's over the years, being a leader is not easy. It's a huge sacrifice. It's a huge commitment. And you have to ask yourself why you want to lead. Paid or unpaid, doesn't matter. Paid or unpaid. So how do you intend to add value to that role? And those are the questions I always ask myself every time I find myself in that situation.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your views about leadership. And we could go on for a long time on this subject, which is very interesting, because from time to time people do ask questions about, or should I go for it, should I not go for it, I'm not so sure, I don't think I'm ready, I don't think I'm made for it, and all of those things. I'm hoping that by listening to what you've said, people can take away things that would encourage them, and to help them step up, to that call when they get the call.
Aristotle once said, he who has never learned to obey cannot be a good commander. Remember, I used the example of being a follower leader.
Yes.
Because sometimes you have to be a follower leader. And if you can't be a good follower, how can you be a good leader? Even Jesus Christ even shared that wisdom with us when the issue about who was going to succeed him. If you remember when his disciples were asking who are going to succeed him and so on, whether he even take some of them with him and so on. And when he tried to enlighten them that actually, whoever is going to be leader must be the best follower. If I could paraphrase it that way. The least among you, the lowest among you, who knows, maybe is actually going to be the leader. And the one who thinks is automatically going to be the leader, I may not even fit enough to even untie the sandals. And if you can, explain that proverbial way, so you can see that so it is very important that we always realize that we as leaders, we need to be mindful of that all the time. So no general can fight, their battles alone. You must depend on other lieutenants, and your success depends all upon your ability to select the right people to fight the race. So yes, so a leader must have all those values.
Thank you. Thank you once again, and I want to say thank you to all our viewers as well for staying with us today and listening to this podcast. And I want to say, please do share. Once you've watched it, please share it with your friends and your families, and also just click the like button and the notification bell as well, so that when I upload more videos like this, you will get notified and you can get to watch it quite quickly. Thank you so much, and God bless.
Thank you.